Inside the Magic, show number 481 and 3/4 for June 22nd, 2014. It is Sunday, June 22nd, 2014. This is show 481 and 3/4 of Inside the Magic, and as always, I am your host, Ricky Briganti, and this week, we definitely will be discussing a whole lot of magic, but not Disney magic. This time it is from Universal Orlando, an entire show dedicated to Diagon Alley. I had a chance this week to spend a whole lot of time exploring this incredible new expansion of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter over at Universal Studios Florida, and it is simply unbelievable. We're going to be joined by a very special guest to discuss everything in great detail. So if you are a Harry Potter fan, you don't mind a few little spoilers, or big spoilers, then keep on listening because there's a whole lot to share. Of course, I do invite you to visit our website at InsideTheMagic.net. There you can find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, and plenty more, particularly extensive coverage of Diagon Alley. Lots of photos, lots of videos, and a whole lot of written material to read all about it in addition to this podcast. And if you ever have any news, tips, questions, comments, any questions about Diagon Alley, feel free to email me at ricky@InsideTheMagic.net, or you can leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. Free dining is back for Walt Disney World for travel between August 31st and December 23rd, with most dates included. Certain restrictions do apply, so you're going to want to book now for the best availability, and you can do that by calling Magical Travel today at 866-207-8387, or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote. And though they specialize in Disney travel, if you're planning a trip down here to Orlando to visit the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and Diagon Alley, I'm sure they're be more than happy to help you out with your travel plans for that as well. And of course, be sure to mention Inside the Magic to receive your free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And thanks very much to all contributors to Inside the Magic, whether you're making a one-time donation, recurring donation, or any other form of contribution through our website. I appreciate all of it. And now, let's get started with Diagon Alley. This is most definitely a special week in Orlando, special week here on Inside the Magic, because there's this massive project, massive undertaking, massive, amazing theme park addition that has been added to Universal Orlando. Of course, I'm talking about Diagon Alley, and I didn't want to talk about it all by myself, so I am welcoming Andrew Sims to this show. He is the editor-in-chief of Hypable, also host of MuggleCast. And Andrew, I can't believe it's been, 4 years since I came on MuggleCast to talk the last round of the Wizarding World?
Yeah, you came on. It was a very special episode because we had you on in the Three Broomsticks in the original Hogsmeade land. So, I can't believe 4 years have flown by now. It's pretty crazy.
That was pretty awesome to go in there and have the whole setup and do the podcast and people, in the audience and excited. And there was so much, feeling in the air because everyone was thrilled to be there. This time around, unveiling Diagon Alley, a very different way of doing it.
Yeah, now we have an opening date, but it's not when all the press is going to be there. Of course, it's going to be in a few weeks on July 8th. But yeah, I think I have to say it was a 4-day trip. This media preview was a 4-day trip, and it was one of the best times. I mean, Universal really knows how to throw a party.
Definitely. They really wanted to unveil. I mean, normally there's soft openings and hotel packages, and everybody gets to sort of sneak in there and see it first. This time they really gave press and VIPs and celebrities the opportunity to be the first to see Diagon Alley. It's been hidden behind this London front, the facades for so long.
Yeah. I think, they pulled it off splendidly. I mean, I know I feel bad because I keep sharing photos and video and my friends and family are like, I'm so jealous. It's so cool.
Well, and then
you're
of course,
have to come visit.
Yeah, then there's the 100 or so people that have been out there in front of the barricades for days and days, just baking in the sun, hoping to get in there.
Yeah, I actually ran into a MuggleCast listener while I was down there, and they were like, "Yeah," or it was two girls, and they were like, "Yeah, we're hoping to get in." And I'm like, "I wish I had something to give you from
Right.
Diagon Alley, but I really don't have anything on me."
Yeah, so I mean, before we even jump into talking about everything Diagon Alley, I should say up front here that this is definitely going to have some spoilers. That's kind of the point here. So if anyone out there wants to be surprised, whether it's the Hogwarts Express, the Escape from Gringotts attraction, or just sort of the general walking around Diagon Alley, you might want to just stop listening here.
Yeah, and I have to say, even we could talk for like 4 hours on this podcast right now, which we're not, but
Right.
we could, and there would still be surprises.
Very true. Yeah. In fact, I mean, how long? We probably had maybe 6 hours of exploration over the last few days, sort of freedom, and that wasn't nearly enough to see everything.
It wasn't. It really wasn't.
So, and one more note here before we really jump into it. In addition to Diagon Alley this week, of course, we had a couple of other opportunities. We tasted a few new flavors over at City Walk. As you said, we learned the opening date of Diagon Alley, which is going to be July 8th officially. And it was the official grand opening of the Cabana Bay Beach Resort, where the Beach Boys played, which was pretty cool.
That was cool. I never thought I would be able to say I've seen the Beach Boys.
Yeah, me neither. So, yeah, so for all of that, everyone can head over to InsideTheMagic.net to see coverage of those, but that is not the focus here. Let's jump right into it. Of course, Diagon Alley, the new section of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, is pretty much done. I'm sure they've got some tweaks to do between now and July 8th, but we saw the mostly finished version of it, and it exists at Universal Studios Florida. What did you think when you walked up to the sort of the London embankment area for the first time?
Well, I'm gonna be saying this a lot. When you see a lot of photos, I mean, you guys have been sharing a lot of photos. Just fans have been taking photos while it's under construction. But once you actually see it, you get a scope of truly how big it is. The front side, the London waterfront, is just beautiful. And one of the coolest parts, well, there's two great parts that are features of themselves in this entire land. One is the night bus. You have the night bus. What is his name technically? He's not the driver.
He is the conductor.
Conductor. Okay. So he will happily talk with you along with the shrunken head, who appears to be a live voice.
Yeah, it's fun. I head out there, and this guy that they cast in this role of the conductor, he looks just like the guy who was in the movies.
He does. And by the way, he was a part of the grand opening moment on Wednesday night. He introduced some of the Warner Brothers bigwigs, and he teased the dragon. That was the coolest part.
That's right. Yeah, I guess we should even mention it. It wasn't technically a grand opening, which is kind of weird because it's not opening for another few weeks. But it was a moment, I guess, is what they were calling it.
Yeah.
And yes, he said something about oh, there's a dragon lurking here, and all of a sudden these big flames popped up over there, which was pretty awesome.
It was so cool. But anyway, London. So the night bus, and then of course Creature, who sticks his head out at 12 Grimmauld Place, and I think he does so every 5 or 10 minutes, and he does two different things.
Yeah, it's fun to see. For the most part, it just looks like London. I mean, it's a pretty accurate recreation of various familiar places from actual real life London. And then there's just those little tiny Harry Potter twists. Conversing with the night bus conductor is very amusing. He's as quirky as he is in the movie. And then the shrunken head adds to the comedy of the situation because they almost have like a Laurel and Hardy thing kind of going.
Yeah.
Just, back and forth sort of. You're talking to the conductor and then the shrunken head butts in with his, silly little jokes.
Yeah, they must have those guys, whoever's doing the shrunken head voice inside, and the conductor, those two must have a good working relationship because they have to be able to bounce off of each other to make it sound natural and fun. So it works really well.
It does, and then yes, Creature peeking out of the window is a fun. I don't even know how many people are going to notice that. It's such a subtle effect, and it's way up there in a window. But I mean, Harry Potter fans will figure it out real quick.
Yeah, it'll be a fun surprise. But those steps, I have to think a lot of people will be sitting on them for shade because the sun doesn't really hit them in the afternoon, so maybe ruin some pictures. But
well, that whole area is going to be photographed like crazy. You can sit around the fountain, you can walk up to some of the facades. I mean, it's really just all essentially a barricade blocking your view into Diagon Alley. That's the whole purpose of all of that. And so a lot of people will certainly be hanging out there. I don't know if you looked at the sort of British merchandise that's in the cart there.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I didn't get a close look, but it's typical. I think it all just says London or
Yeah,
it
it's
says
just
England.
little teddy bears and T-shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you never plan on going to London, then this is the perfect merchandise for you.
Right. I remember the first time I shared, when the walls came down, I shared a photo of that whole area, and somebody commented, was like, "Oh, I thought you were really in London." So that's a testament to Universal, I guess.
Exactly, exactly.
So
They'll
now,
be happy to hear that.
sure, before you even get into Diagon Alley, and this is where things get a little odd because they're unveiling the Hogwarts Express train, the real train, at the same time, which doesn't actually take you into Diagon Alley. It's just next to Diagon Alley.
Yeah, this actually surprised me a little bit. So if you're standing within Diagon Alley, let's say you're looking at the dragon, to go to the Hogwarts Express, you have to go out back to the London waterfront where the night bus is. Then you have to go around into the Hogwarts, the King's Cross station.
Right.
Which I don't think it's a problem, and I guess it makes sense because if you're taking the train from Hogsmeade to Diagon Alley, and you exit Diagon Alley, you come out, you want to see the waterfront first before going into Diagon Alley, and that way you get the whole experience of that view when
Right.
you first walk through the brick wall.
And logistically, it's their way of saying, "Hey, all of you can ride the train, and then here's our separate queue to get into Diagon Alley," because I'm sure there's going to be billions of people trying to do both very soon.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So, I mean, that had surprised me slightly because I had expected a little like walkway connecting the two without having to go out to the waterfront. But
Right.
I guess it's fine.
So for me, if you wanted to really get the proper story of doing all of this, I would say you would want to start your adventure by going to London, because that's really where Harry Potter starts, and take the train, go to King's Cross Station and take it over to Hogsmeade / Hogwarts. I mean, that's the beginning of Harry's adventure, you know, his world entry into the wizarding world. So I think that would make the most sense. And walking into King's Cross Station, it's like almost too authentic. It's like
Yeah.
you are really stepping into a real train station.
I really couldn't agree more. When Terry from Zap to It, we were walking through it together for the first time, and we said to each other at the exact same time, this really feels like the London Underground. It feels like a London train station. They did a great job.
It's got sound effects where you can hear sort of trains going in the distance. It's got mock announcements that don't really say anything important, but it all gives that feeling. I mean, you walk through this massive entryway and then into these tunnels that seem to go on forever with like advertisements for tourism in London. And
Yeah, there's a billboard that is referenced in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So if you're familiar with that movie, particularly the start of it, you will see a billboard that is very recognizable.
See, I saw that, and this is why I wanted you on the show, because I knew I was like, okay, that looks familiar, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So it's in Half-Blood Prince when the movie starts out. Dumbledore's looking at it in the London Underground. I
Right,
believe.
I remember that now. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good one. Are we talking about the train now? Is that okay, or do you want to save that?
Well,
for later?
yeah. I mean, the walking up to the train. What really struck me, and of course, this being a press preview, there were not really lines for anything, but it was very clear that the line to get on the Hogwarts Express in King's Cross is going to be very, very long.
This is the second thing that struck me when I was walking through with Terry. It's like there's a lot of space for queues here. I mean, they have a ton of room.
These massive, I mean, and this is something that we could say about just about every building in Diagon Alley, is that they're huge. Their ceilings are, multiple stories tall, big open expanses, and yes, a lot of that is devoted to just sort of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, with a little bit of luggage lying around and nothing else to look at.
Yeah. So in the platform 9 3/4 queue, of course, there's that iconic wall in the movie that they run through to get into platform 9 3/4. That is there during the line,
right?
And it's a little mirror trick that they do to make it work. Now, here's the thing about it, and there's going to be controversy around this. I think some people are unfortunately going to be disappointed. To see your friends or family go through the brick wall, you have to be earlier in the queue.
Right.
To get a picture of them, to get video of them. But the problem is, if the line keeps moving through that wall, you're not going to be able to take a picture because you have to be back 50 people.
Yeah,
while your friends are 50
it's sort of
ahead.
down the hall and around the corner is the vantage point that you can see people walking through that wall.
Yeah.
And when you actually get there yourself, there's not really a special effect or anything. It's just an open space.
the reason we were able to do it, we have a bunch of people have pictures, is because there was no line.
Right.
But even when we were stopping to take pictures, there's a line forming behind us, and we were just like, oh, you can just go around because we're just taking pictures. You can go ahead. So I don't know how Universal is going to handle that.
Well,
I think
when I went through there was a, and I guess they're called porters, not the train conductors, but the others who are working in the train station. There was somebody stationed just right before that. And I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. I don't know this for sure, but it would make sense to me if they had somebody right there, because at that point you've probably already been waiting, 2 hours in line or something. And at that point, if you waited an extra 3 minutes, it wouldn't matter. So I think it would make sense to me if they had somebody there sort of pulsing groups through and say, okay, get ready. You're going to go through, between platforms 9 and 10 and, go gather right in this spot and send everybody through around the corner one at a time. That would make the most sense to me. But when there's, 3,000 people in line and they're all getting grumpy and everything, I have a feeling at some point they're just gonna be like, yeah, go.
Right, that's what I'm worried about. And I mean, they're gonna have to explain this to people and over again. Like,
right. Well, it definitely needs some explanation, because when I went through, there was literally nobody else around except for that one team member there, and all she said was go. And so I was like, okay. And so we didn't even see the moment where you're supposed to watch others go through. We just walked right past it, and then after we walked through there, we were like, well, wait, where was the wall? So we had to backtrack, and we were like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, it's not marked or anything.
Right, and which just... it's not July 8th. Who knows? Something else might happen in there that'll make a little more sense.
Yeah, they're going to be training nonstop. But
right.
We did talk to somebody there who somebody had asked, so how are you going to handle this? And they didn't seem to know yet. So, there still are 3 weeks, and they'll work out the kinks during the soft opening.
But what is there when you are standing there and you do see that moment? It as simple of an effect it is, like you said, it's just sort of a Pepper's ghost reflection sort of thing. It's pretty effective.
Yeah, no, it was a fun trick, and I think fans will be happy to see that they at least try to do it. Because, I mean, really, how could you create such a thing any other way?
I was wondering that. I was like, are they going to have like a mist screen that they're going to project bricks onto? Or what? I couldn't come up with something that actually made any sense.
That's sort of what I was thinking, kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Through. Yeah, but no, they didn't do it that way.
Right.
But what they did now for works. There's always room for upgrades down the road.
Sure. Well, there's literally plenty of room in there. They could reconfigure things. So you go down there, you turn the corner, and that's when you get your first full-on view of the Hogwarts Express train sitting there in the massive train station.
Yeah, I was lucky enough when I walked into platform 9 3/4 itself. The train was sitting there waiting.
Same with me, yeah.
It is so remarkable. Fans are going to absolutely be delighted by this. I mean, the train it feels larger than life. Again, I mentioned earlier, a lot of things, they look bigger once you're there in person. The train looks bigger once you are there in person.
Yeah, definitely. And it's got, the engine has steam billowing from it, and there's just everybody's there to group you in to be loaded into the cabins, and there's a lot of sort of hustle in there, and it really feels like you are boarding a train for an adventure.
Yeah, the train is alive, and I mean, Hedwig is there.
Right. Yeah. Yep. You sort of have to pass right around Hedwig, which is great. I mean, the people are going to stop and take pictures of that for sure.
Oh yeah. What else? I mean, when I walked in, the train was already loaded. They were waiting to pull out. Seeing it move for the first time too, out of the station, was just so cool.
Yeah, and so then that's where one of the little quirks of this whole system has developed, and I was wondering about this as I was watching it testing and everything, and it's just as odd as I thought it would be to watch the train back into the station when it returns.
Yeah, that was the one thing. So the platform 9 3/4 side of it, the train comes in backwards, whereas when it arrives, it comes in backwards. Whereas on the Hogsmeade side, it arrives face first, but then it backs out.
Right. So each side has its own weird, quirky moment that you're like, why is the train going backwards?
Yeah. So it's strange, but it makes sense logistically.
Right.
And then I guess both trains leave the station at the same exact time.
Yeah, it seems to be like, because the ride is roughly 4.5 minutes long, and it's that duration that the trains come and go. So if you just missed it, you only have to wait about 5 minutes before another one shows up.
Yeah, and it was a really seamless experience. That was actually the most impressive part to me. So once you sit inside one of the train cars, and when you walk in, it is just like the movie. When you walk inside the train, it is just like the movie. There's that narrow hallway to get
Hmm.
into each of the compartments. The doors slide open. You can sit there. I believe each compartment holds 8 people.
Yeah, and I thought it was really nice that they are at least for now, they were taking their time to escort each group individually to each cabin. You know, walk you down the hallway, load you in, and then they move on to the next one. It was a nice, easy flow. When there's, you know, thousands of people there, I don't know if it's going to keep going like that, but...
Yeah, I guess they have to though, because they have to tell you,
Yeah,
okay,
true.
8 people in here, and
Right,
then
otherwise people would just be wandering, taking pictures, going in other people's
Exactly.
cabins. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can even they really did a good job with the train compartments. Up above your seats are places to put all your bags.
Oh,
Just
I
like,
didn't even notice that.
yeah, just like in a real train.
Okay.
It's kind of like a
Right.
shelf, and so then yeah, I mean the ride itself,
The seats are very comfortable.
they are
They're
yeah.
cushy. They're like fabric. I couldn't. You know, normally in a theme park it's like hard plastic and all of that. This
Yeah.
There was nothing that felt off about the cabins at all. They're not exactly spacious, but there's enough room to be comfortably seated in there.
Yeah, I didn't get the sense that it's like it's too enclosed. Then again, it was only 3 people in my car, so I don't know if it would feel different. But also a nice touch out the window while you're waiting to depart. There's smoke on the digital screen, kind of like rising, coming out of the bottom of the train. That's what it's supposed to simulate, and it looks good. It actually the screens look great.
Yeah, and so you get in the cabin. There's sort of frosted glass that is the door when you come in. You sit down and they slide that shut. And for the duration, the roughly 5-minute duration of the ride, you are in this cabin sitting, and you think you're just going to be looking out the window the whole time, but there's a lot going on the other side as well.
Yeah, which was that was a genuine surprise for me. I
Me
didn't
too.
know that was going to happen.
I don't think anybody did, and honestly, so you see shadows of people essentially being in the hallway as the train is in motion and you're going through your journey, and the entertainment that was going on through that frosted glass, I liked that even more than what was outside the windows.
Yeah, me too. And it was also just refreshing because, like, instead of staring out the window for an entire 4 or 5 minute journey, you get to look the other way. You do see the trolley lady through the frosted window, which fans are going to really appreciate because that's an iconic moment in the movie. And you do see the trio at one point. The one person you actually see is Ron, played by Rupert Grint.
That is a stunning moment.
Yeah. Because I believe it's only in one direction you actually
It is,
see
yeah.
Ron.
It was on the return from Hogsmeade to Diagon. Well, it doesn't have to be a return, but the way to Hogsmeade to Diagon Alley. Yeah, you sort of hear voices and you see silhouettes, and then Ron puts his head up against the window with his hands sort of pressed at it, like, "Hey, isn't there somebody in here?" And you feel like he is really standing there looking into your cabin.
Yeah, and it's another part of the surprise about that was because every other element that's happening on those frosted windows are kind of just like white and black colors, whereas when Ron actually puts his head up, and then when Ron puts his head up against the window, you actually see Ron like in full color. So those screens within those sliding doors are actually really high tech.
Yeah, it was really impressive, and then other fun things happen on that side during you'll get sort of lights will flicker and lightning strikes, and then somebody yells out Dementors, and you see the hand press up against the glass and it gets all frosty cold, and somebody said that there's supposed to be a chill that gets pumped in there at that point, but I didn't feel
that. Yeah. Maybe it's not ready yet.
It could be. But sort of all those little moments that you would expect to be aboard a trip on the Hogwarts Express are there.
Yeah. It was a really complete experience, and like I said, seamless as well. So once the train actually gets rolling, it doesn't stop along the way at any point. You are moving the entire way.
And there's a little bit of feeling with the train. You can actually feel the bouncing and sort of back and forth, and it coincides with what you're seeing on the screen. And the visuals outside the window, they're not 3D, but there's some sort of like curvature to it that gives it a nice depth.
Yes, it does feel like you're actually looking out a window, which I was a little bit concerned about before I wrote it. But once you do, it really does look like you're looking out a window.
Yeah, and you start pulling out of the station. You go and see, depending on which direction you're going in, you see Hogwarts Castle in the distance. You see Malfoy Manor makes a spooky appearance.
Me and my friends were like, we never knew Malfoy Manor was right along the Hogwarts Express train track. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
You wouldn't think
Who
the
knew?
Malfoys would want to live that close to the train.
Right, exactly. They can pay for better property that
Right.
doesn't have a train track running
I
next
guess
to
I
it.
guess they can keep an eye on everything that way.
Yeah, true. Very
But,
true.
but yeah, there's the Weasleys flying in on their brooms and throwing in a plug for their store in Diagon Alley as you're on your way there, and a lot of amusing moments there. Buckbeak and Hedwig and other, plenty of characters and entertainment. There's not a moment during that ride where you're not thoroughly entertained.
Yeah, and then I had a moment during the first ride from Diagon Alley to Hogsmeade. I just had a light bulb moment where I was like, "Wow, we just took this train, we watched it, through a digital screen, but we were actually in Hogsmeade now.
Yeah.
We actually did just go between two parks. That's so cool."
That is definitely the thing that you don't really get a sense of unless you actually do it. That it's not just a ride. You are actually going from London, King's Cross Station, and arriving at Hogsmeade and Hogwarts, just like Harry Potter did, and that's going to be pretty magical for all the Harry Potter fans.
Yeah, and I actually expected a little bit of a wait once we arrived in Hogsmeade and also once we arrived in Diagon Alley. But no, once the show out the window is over, once you stop moving, the doors open and that's it. You're
Right.
out.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no waiting.
Exactly. Normally on a ride like this, it's kind of like, okay, we arrived, we settle, you got to wait for this, that, and the other. No, it's like, open the door, out the door.
Yeah, you're
move
there.
on.
You're there.
Yeah. So Hogwarts Express, I would say, is obviously a must-do. It lived up to every expectation that I had for it.
I agree. I'm very curious about what the wait times are going to be because
that should be interesting.
It seems like what's the ride capacity? Like 150?
Yeah, there were 150, 160 per train.
Okay. I didn't even get a look at the queue over on the Hogsmeade side because I didn't really properly exit.
I did not either.
Okay.
But I'm sure it's massive.
Yeah, it's got to be the same size as Diagon Alleys, I would assume.
Right. So now that's the ride. You can take the train over. You can take the train back. You get to London. You've arrived in King's Cross, and to get into Diagon Alley, there's sort of the transition, if you will, through the jagged brick entryway, which I think people may be expecting a little bit more than what's there.
Yeah, it's so you don't actually walk through a wall, sort of like a smoke and mirrors trick,
right,
like we were describing with platform 9 3/4. But at the same time, well, because in the movie, the brick wall magically opens up, when Hagrid taps on it. It's a really cool moment in the movie. So fans were sort of expecting that, but you don't get that. Instead, you're walking through an opening, a large opening in a brick wall. There's also so when you're standing outside of London on the waterfront, you start walking towards these bricks and it's kind of hard to describe. You walk around the bricks, through a brick room.
You don't have a direct view into Diagon Alley. You have to go sort of, it's kind of like when you enter, this is a terrible comparison, but when you enter a restroom and you have to go around sort of the wall that blocks your view inside. So yeah, you can either choose left or right. And then when you do that, there's another wall there that's kind of the jagged brick opening, and you hear the sounds of the rumbling of the bricks.
Yeah. Oh, do you? I think I missed that.
So this was what was kind of weird is on Media Day, they had all the ambient audio turned off.
Yeah, for the cameras.
Exactly. But then on the night that we were there was definitely that sound of sort of whatever that sound makes when the bricks open. It was sort of playing on loop there to give you that impression.
Okay. And then one part that surprised me, so once you go through the brick area, you get a view of Diagon Alley, but you actually can't see the dragon.
Yeah,
there's a bridge over top.
Exactly. That's actually something that I've talked to Alan Gilmore, the art director, on the films and throughout that area, and it's something that they were really wanting to. He's really proud of that bridge up there because he feels like it adds authenticity to the area. It's something you would normally see in London. It's something that it gives it sort of that weird quirk that you're not expecting. Because you're right, it blocks sort of the vertical view. You have to walk forward a bit to get that proper unveiling of the grandeur of Diagon Alley.
Whereas, with Hogsmeade, you turn that one corner in the section right outside of Hogsmeade, and you have a perfect view of all of Hogsmeade Village and Hogwarts Castle. You just get everything in one glimpse. And I guess for this one, I was thinking, well, maybe they have the bridge there to force people to walk further, so you kind of have this moment of anticipation
I
where
think
you're just
so,
like
yeah.
taking a few more steps and your mouth is starting to, open up more and more as
Right.
you see this world right in front of you.
And it stops people from immediately stopping to take pictures on the other side of that wall. It's going to force people to move another 100 feet or so.
That's a good point. That's probably a large reason why they did it.
But once you do that, once you step forward and you see the full unveiling of Diagon Alley, you see Gringotts Bank in the distance with the huge, amazing, incredible dragon on top. It's a pretty stunning moment.
Yeah, it's a postcard moment. I mean, the pictures, everybody will be an amazing photographer when you take a picture of this area. It's just picture perfect. You can have both sides of stores in your photo, along with the dragon at the very end and Gringotts Bank. It's a wonderful view. I think it tops anything in Hogsmeade.
Oh, absolutely. And it's huge. You okay, so people have been posting helicopter flyovers of Diagon Alley, and when you look at that, it looks tiny. It looks cramped. When you step in there, it is massive. The width of the streets is not necessarily huge, but the size of the buildings themselves, you have to crank your neck way upward to look at the top of these buildings.
Yeah, and one of the things, I mean, are we getting into the overview now, or
I
don't want to get too far ahead of you. Well, so overview-wise, like the height of the buildings really offers more shade, which is really great.
Right.
And there are areas that are just the park itself is larger. I think the walkways are larger. There's just more room to be comfortable. Whereas in Hogsmeade, you had that one road, that was it. Diagon Alley branches off into several different roads, including, for example, Nocturne Alley, which is complete darkness and air conditioned. It's going to be a great place to escape the sun during the day.
Definitely.
But they really did respond to complaints, I think, about Hogsmeade being a little too tight and not having much shade. I mean, Ollivanders itself has an indoor queue now, whereas over in Hogsmeade it didn't, right?
Well,
and people were just baking out in the sun.
Initially, when they opened, they had no queue for Ollivanders. I think they really had no clue how popular each of these, just the stores, would be. And they had to sort of set up this afterthought of a queue in Hogsmeade, like, let's put a bunch of stanchions around the corner here. I guess that's all we have room for. So yes, they've planned ahead this time around, certainly.
The Ollivanders queue, in Diagon Alley, you have this giant, well, compared to like other areas from Hogsmeade, you have this very nice sized area where people can wait before entering Ollivanders, the store itself, where the wand selection process takes place.
Right.
So there's examples of that throughout the park where they really did pay attention to having bigger queues, indoor queues, more shade, things like that.
Yeah, when I stepped in there the first time, it was at night, which it is gorgeous at night. The lighting that they've done on everything is wonderful. And so I had a plan. Oh, I want to go here, I want to go here, I want to go here, and I walked in and everything just disappeared. Like I was just like I was so speechless, and my mind was blown at the amount of detail, the size, the everything that's in there. Like I kept running into, I mean, it was a special night, obviously. It was the press unveiling, it was the red carpet and all of that, and of course all of the sort of creative heads of Diagon Alley were there, and I kept running into a lot of them, and they were like, "So, what did you think?" And I was just like, I don't know what to say. It's incredible. There are no words to describe the immersiveness, the overwhelming feeling of walking in there. Even me, as I'm not a big Harry Potter fan per se, I'm like, the movies are good, but I'm not like blown away. I am completely blown away by this. I've never seen a theme park environment built to this scale, to this amount of detail, to this amount of believability, just hiding itself from the outside world. It is incredible.
Yeah. This preview night, it was something I realized was that I have no clue what direction I'm walking in Diagon Alley right now, because this is all so new to me. I don't know where I'm going, and I completely love it. I just want to be lost in here and discover the walkways for myself.
Exactly, yeah.
Because like Hogsmeade or any other park you go to, you learn how to get around and whatnot. But then with Diagon Alley, or just like any other new land, but with this in particular, there's so many places to walk and so many things to see. You just have to give yourself the time to take your time and enjoy discovering what's around every corner.
It's really something that they've done on purpose here, because Diagon Alley, as told through the original fiction, was basically just that main street there and then Nocturne. Whereas now they've invented this other horizontal alley and this Carpet Market side, and it really made the whole area feel like a complete real place that you have traveled to, and you are exploring as if you traveled to another city in the world.
Yeah. Now the market, which side is the market and which side is Horizont Alley?
If you're walking up to Gringotts, you've got Diagon Alley going straight, and sort of the perpendicular to that is Horizont Alley, and then Carket Market is the whole right side, the covered side.
Okay, I like the latter because, this is another example of places there's more shade. That
right.
whole
Yeah,
area
definitely
has a ton of shade, a ton of room too. I mean, you've got to see pictures of this now. Now that's all complete. There's nothing but open space in there, and that's also where the two shows are happening: the Beetle the Bard show and the music show.
Right.
Performed by Mrs. Weasley's favorite jazz singer, I believe she is described as. So that's another great place for parents to rest, get some shade, just enjoy the atmosphere while the kids maybe are running around, or just anybody wants to break.
No. All right, so tell me, as you're the Harry Potter nut here, walking around just the streets without going in anything, what did you spot in the sort of the exteriors of this whole area that maybe I didn't pick up on?
Oh man, there are a lot of hidden things, but I think the thing that jumped out to me most was you may have seen this, the Gilderoy Lockhart storefront.
I briefly did.
Okay, I think that's at Borgin and Burke's. I'm not sure where it was at, but it was right on the main Diagon Alley drag there. And it was just cool to see Gilderoy there, his smiling face. Again, it looks just like it does in the movie, so people are going to realize that and see that and freak out because they're seeing Lockhart in the park, sort of. What else? I think... of course, right at the foot of Gringotts Bank is, I believe, what they must be going for is Hagrid's motorcycle that he... transports Harry with.
Okay, I see. I was wondering about that. I saw that vehicle there, and I was like, okay, that must be a thing.
Yeah, I think it looks smaller than it is in the movie because it doesn't look like that thing would hold Hagrid. But I assume that's what they're going for. So that was a cool touch.
Makes it a nice little photo op there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would say those two things. Nocturne Alley, I was really impressed by. In the store there within Nocturne Alley, there's a hand.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, they will recognize that from the movies.
Oh, see, now I saw that. I don't remember it from the movies.
It is in the movie, in Nocturne Alley during Chamber of Secrets.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you will see it. It is it's references like that the fans are going to really appreciate it. I know Evanna Lynch recognized some sort of creature in the pet store, the pet stuffed animal there that she freaked out over because it had never made the movies, but there it was.
That's Luna Lovegood, of course.
Yeah, sorry, she plays Luna Lovegood, and
I think so. On after all of the not enough hours that we spent in there, on the way out, I ran into Alan Gilmore one more time, and sort of as a footnote to the whole thing, he was like, "So you got a nice overview of everything, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, it's wonderful and this and that." And he was like, "Yeah, you need to really spend another 6 weeks here and just look at every tiny little detail," because he said just everything, if it exists on a building somewhere, there's a reason. They didn't just put anything for no purpose. All of the graphics and the signage were done by the same folks who created the graphics for the films, the very talented graphic designers, and they were there for the first time this week, and they were blown away. And it's just the level of careful attention that they have put into everything there is just surpassing anything that I've ever seen in a theme park.
Yeah, Terry, again, from Zeptoit, she was a little underwhelmed during preview nights, but I think part of the problem was, A, it's your first time going in, there's just so much to look at, you don't know where to look first, and B, it was really crowded, and not really, really crowded, but there were so many people around that it's kind of hard to make sure you're noticing all the details because people are standing around covering things up and whatnot.
Right.
So then when we went during the next day, when there was less people running around, and of course when it was daylight, she really got a better sense, as did I, about the number of details you can find throughout the park. For example, I didn't notice that the Leaky Cauldron sign is actually leaking.
I didn't see that either.
Oh, you got it was awesome.
Outside of the restaurant?
Yeah, so there's a sign right outside the Leaky Cauldron restaurant, and you'll see a puddle of water right on the ground. And when I saw that, I was like, did they forget to clean that up? But then if you look at the sign where the crack is,
that's great.
They have a little thing of water and it's dripping.
That's perfect.
And I tried to take a picture of it, but it's really hard because it's just like drip,
right,
drip, drip, but it is dripping water.
It's a very subtle effect.
Yeah, so it's things like that you never would have thought of, but then when you see it, you appreciate it so much because they took the name of the place very literally. I don't think you see that in the movie.
Sure.
So it's just a nice touch.
Okay, so we're talking about subtle details. There is nothing at all subtle about this dragon that's on top of Gringotts.
Yep. The dragon, I think, again, the scale, you don't realize how big it is until you are looking at it in person, and that thing is remarkable.
The detail of this thing, and I keep using the word detail because I don't know, I mean, that's what it is. You see this sort of dragon in the films, and you get this sort of like, oh, that's CG, that's, it's not real, whatever. And then it looks exactly the same, but it is not CG. It's there. It's in front of you, and it's huge.
Yeah. And the sound it makes when it roars, it is loud. You can hear it from anywhere in Diagon Alley. If you are during the press conferences, in the Leaky Cauldron, the doors were closed to keep the sound out, but you could still hear the dragon roaring.
I was over in Carket Market doing an interview, and about 2 minutes into it, all of a sudden, and the interview was just like, okay, wait, dragon. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
Thankfully, they didn't turn that off during the media day.
Right. Yeah, you certainly. But of course, every time it roars, that's your cue to look up because that is when the massive fireball comes out of its mouth, and it is huge and it's hot.
Yeah. You really feel the heat. See, that's a tip that people should know because during preview night, I wanted to get a good shot of it, but I didn't know when the dragon was going to be spitting fire.
Right.
So I was standing there with my phone for a good 5 minutes, just pointing at it, just waiting for the moment to happen. But it turns out, first you will hear the sort of ignition switch in his mouth, and you really can hear it.
That's true. Yeah.
Even when you're down at
the
bottom.
The lighting of the pilot light.
Yeah, exactly. It's like your gas stove at home.
Yeah.
So you hear,
not to ruin the magic or anything.
Right. It is kind of cool though, because it's like, oh, here it comes, here it comes.
I could even hear. So after that happened, you hear the little sound.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, okay, propane's flowing, we're ready.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like Ricky said, it does roar, and then it roars again with the actual fire.
Right.
So you do have time to look up, whip your camera out really quick,
and
so
it's not just a quick little whoosh. It's like a
Yeah, it's really good. Now, one of the employees there told me that he saw the flame turn like blue and green as well. I didn't see that happen.
I did not either, but I could see how that could happen.
I mean, I could see it being blue based on, like, when fire gets really hot,
right,
it turns blue. So I don't know if that's what he saw. Maybe there's an extra trick coming where they put powder in the fire.
Yeah, throw a little potassium in there or something. And I don't know, but I do know that a lot of people have, of course now it's everywhere. I've got a million videos of everything up, and everyone's got photos and everything. And so people are now, who haven't been there, are watching it all. And the number one comment that I've been getting back about the dragon, other than, wow, that's really cool, is, oh, it doesn't move.
Yes, I wanted to bring this up. It's a bit disappointing that it doesn't move because I guess everybody just assumed it would, and it doesn't. But when it does roar, it is really cool, and I'm sort of over that now that it wasn't moving.
It's one of those things that when you see photos and particularly video of it, you're like, well, that's kind of weird. It's just stationary because you're zoomed way in and all of that. But when you're there in person, you're looking, down the street or way up at it, and you're just, you're in the moment, and it doesn't really matter so much when you're there.
Yeah, and I wonder why they didn't make it move, but it kind of reminds me just of sort of like a classic theme park feature where something doesn't move. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it just reminded me of like what you would expect in a typical theme park with something like that.
Although there's nothing typical about Diagon Alley, so no. I agree. I think even just a little tiny amount of head movement would have gone a long way, just into maybe show that it's there and it's just resting.
Now, I mean, do we know for sure that it's not going to move? Maybe that part just wasn't ready. Did you ask anybody?
Well, the body of it from tail to head is one solid piece.
Yeah.
The wings were attached separately, so theoretically, I guess it's possible that the wings could have a tiny amount of movement, but I highly doubt it. With the size of those things and the way that they're fixed up there and the way they're perfectly posed for photos, I feel like it is what it is.
I was thinking maybe they didn't want to have the head move because in case like the head gets stuck in a direction that
Right.
maybe the fire would be getting too close to the.
Yeah, I saw somebody say, well, what happens if a bird goes up there and perches in his mouth just before?
saw that
I
too
think
on
the
your video.
roar is probably going to scare the bird away.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I have to say, the best view of the dragon is if you're looking at it. So if you walk towards the dragon, then make a right, then turn around, and so it's that Carket Market
Right.
area. That is the best place to see it because you get a look at its left wing, which is going down almost the entire side
Right.
of Gringotts, and it is the best place, I think, the second best place, other than the front.
And you get the profile view of its head. It's not looking direct, you're not looking right into its mouth, and yeah, it's a great place to see it.
Yeah. So if you want to get a sense of the full scale.
And then I also, this was kind of funny. I turned around to walk or turned to walk into Carket Market, and the covering that we mentioned sort of is like a glass, almost a greenhouse type covering. And up there, you can, if the lighting is just right, there's a great reflection of the dragon there.
Oh, cool.
So,
cool.
like, I was just like, wait, how is the dragon there? I was like, oh, that's just, it looked like it had flown over there and perched.
Yeah.
It was kind of neat. So,
yeah.
So, of course, the dragon is perched on top of Gringotts Bank, which is home of Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts, the big new attraction for Diagon Alley.
Yeah. So when preview night, as soon as I got in, the first place me and Terry went was we went straight into the bank because we wanted to be one of the first people to ride it, and I'm really glad that we did because first of all, the Gringotts Bank, the main bank teller area, everybody's probably seen the pictures of that now with the giant chandelier.
Right.
And all the animatronic goblins. It is a beautiful sight.
I mean, walking in there is incredibly impressive because you expect, from those photos, I expected, okay, this is a cool big bank lobby, but I didn't realize how massive of a room that was going to be.
Yeah, and another thing that surprised me is that there's actually no queues in there.
Yeah, definitely. It's a certain. They give you a little freedom, like as if you're stepping into a real bank. They're just like, hey, hang out here, explore, and when you're ready, you can continue.
Go through. Yeah, which was a really great idea because when we first saw these pictures, I was worried. I was like, are they going to be adding those what are those
switchbacks?
Yeah, but were they not including them in the photo so it looked nicer? But yeah, as of right now, there's nothing like that. And so yeah, you take your time in that area.
Well, even when you first step into the entrance, which the entrance to it is kind of around to the right side, you don't go straight into it. And when you walk in, there's this sort of rotunda that you first step into, which has this huge ceiling and a chandelier and this banner, and like you don't even expect all these little tiny. Well, not tiny, but all these extra rooms that you go throughout the queue. It's like, well, they didn't need that. But it's amazing that they put it in there because it adds to the realism of it all.
Yeah, and then interestingly, once you get into the actual queue, the photo op is very early on.
It is. It's not on the ride. Before we get to that, it should mention the big room we were just describing has the bank tellers along the side, the animatronic goblins that you can walk really close to. I mean, you can get right up to them, and they'll turn and they'll look at you and, practically pose for a photo, and then they go back to their work, and then at the end of the room is sort of the main banker who's talking to everybody and saying, everybody, all of you, whenever you're ready, come on in, and you can go to get your security ID.
Yeah, and there's also, by the way, in that section, there's also a bunch of Gringotts bank guards who are probably making sure people aren't doing weird things with the goblins and whatnot.
Yeah, all the employees of Gringotts are dressed as security guards, which it's nice. It gives a kind of a sense of, oh, I shouldn't touch anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably why they're there too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that photo op early on in the queue, I have to say, didn't really like it that much.
It's a little weird.
Because you stand in front of some wood paneling,
right?
And the camera that they use to take a picture of you, it's kind of an old school camera.
Yeah.
So that's clever, but that's it. It's just you and your friends or family, and they take a picture of you, and inside, some wood paneling that's supposed to look like it's in Gringotts.
Right. The photo itself that you get, if you just looked at the picture with no border or anything, it could be anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so then they add that border. It says Gringotts, and then you can also get a photo ID. How much were those?
Too much. The breakdown, it was so when we went up to it, I got it was me and a friend, and we got one photo, the regular photo for each of us, and one ID for each of us, and it was a total of like $88.
Yeah, and those were 8x10 photos.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a nice little collectible. They give you this sort of leather-ish ID with a lanyard to put around your neck, and it's got all kinds of graphics on it and Gringotts on the back. And I almost feel like that's something they need to be doing earlier, like before you get off the ride, so you can wear your security ID badge around while you're exploring.
Yeah. But I think the security badges are cheaper. It's $15 or $20. It's still a lot of money for your picture and a lanyard, but it's the cheaper option instead of getting like an 8x10 photo. And that 8x10 photo, it doesn't seem worth it.
I would definitely recommend getting the ID thing over the photo. That does nothing for you.
Yeah. So then another thing that surprised me about the Gringotts queue was that how different it is compared to the Forbidden Journey queue. Whereas the Forbidden Journey queue, you're going through Hogwarts, and there's some sleek areas, but there's also some like kind of like tunnels and whatnot. Everything here was very sleek. At least before you take the elevator.
And different phases of things, too. It's like it's the original, sort of the initial bank lobby arena is very, very elegant, very marble, very, gold and everything. And then you move into this photo area and the bank sort of office hallway where you see, the different doors that are going to the different goblins' offices. And it's all, dark cherry wood and feels very executive.
Yeah, including the office of Grip Hook, by the way.
Yep, I did see that. And there's some tables with daily profits strewn out, and they're fully animated, just like they should be.
Yeah, it looks great. So then when you get to the elevator, it's kind of Haunted Mansion-ish.
Yeah, well, actually, you're even skipping ahead there because you go into Bill Weasley's office first.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Which, again, like comparing it to Forbidden Journey, Forbidden Journey has a very good flow to it. Like you can stop and watch Dumbledore, you can stop and watch the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom if you want, or you can just keep on moving. This one is definitely sort of a phased thing. You go here, you go into Bill Weasley's office, the door's shut, you watch that show, which has Bill Weasley in there, and I guess that's Grip Hook as well, right?
No, it's actually not Grip
Hook. It's not, okay.
Yeah, it's somebody else. I don't know his name.
Some other goblin.
Yeah, I think it's like the assistant goblin. Some assistant goblin.
Okay.
I'm not sure. He's not like a primary character or anything.
Okay.
But that technology, that projection technology where it looks like Bill Weasley is there and that goblin, it looks just like how Harry, Ron, and Hermione do and Dumbledore do in Forbidden Journey.
I think they've improved on it a little bit. It looked a little sharper to me, but essentially the same concept, except this time there's a moment where they interact with a physical prop in the room, which is nice. You sort of get that the virtual people and the real environment sort of playing off each other, and it ties it all together very well. It's funny too.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fine. I was just so excited to get on the actual ride.
So that's the thing. For me, walking through the environment, the queue and everything, I feel like that is a huge part of the attraction, and I like to sort of soak all of that in. I'm not in a rush to get on the ride, but the average theme park goer just wants to make a bolt for if you're not sitting in a car with a lap bar, you're not having fun. That's the mentality of the average theme park person. So all of this amazing detail and this entertainment in the queue, and I guarantee people are just going to be like looking on their phones and not paying attention to any of it. It's like, just stop, put away your phone, stop talking, look around, take it all in, because there's so much in there.
I will say, though, it is nice that they entertain you in the queue.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of, sitting in a hallway for 3 hours.
Well, there is an extended queue for Gringotts that goes way around back, and you'll be baking in the sun. And yeah, unfortunately, but that's, what can you do when there's 10,000 people wanting to get on a ride?
Yeah.
That's what it is. But
everybody get there in the morning.
Yeah.
And hope for the best.
Or like 3 days in advance and camp out. And yeah. But so after the office is when you do go into sort of your trip through 9 miles down on the elevator into the underbelly of Gringotts.
Mm-hmm. And it was a really cool experience. The elevator is shaking under your feet, and I forget
big too. A lot of 20 people could fit in there easily.
I would say it's bigger than the Haunted Mansion ones.
I don't. Comparable. It's you know, there's definitely that Haunted Mansion element, like you said, because there's a show takes place in this elevator, and as far as I know, it's not really going anywhere. It's it's like the hydrolators of the Living Seas from years ago, where it's all about just sort of like being a pre-show and giving you the simulation of going down. Obviously, you're not really going.
And it works. It does feel like you are descending.
It does, because all the visuals are taking place sort of above you in the glass ceiling-ish.
Yeah.
And you're looking up, and it starts to go down. It feels like you're going down. It definitely has that impression of, moving downward at a rapid pace.
But here's the bizarre part to me. So you go through that, you get the impression you're going down, and then the next thing you do is you go up a spiral staircase.
I know, it's so confusing. So the show itself that takes place is fun. It doesn't have a whole lot going on with it. I was actually expecting a little bit more. It's well done, but it's not really in-your-face entertainment. I guess they didn't want to take away from the ride itself, probably. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you step out there, you grab your 3D glasses, and now you're surrounded by caverns, and you're clearly underground. And yeah, the first thing you do, you're like, oh, there's like a 2-story spiral staircase I have to walk up now.
Yeah, it's a lot of stairs.
Yeah, and there is an elevator available for those who can't do that, but 99% of people are going to just walk up the stairs, and yeah, it's like, couldn't the elevator have stopped 20 feet early, and then we wouldn't have to do that?
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit bizarre, but I did enjoy the elevator. I thought it was cool.
Right. So then you do walk up those stairs, you turn a corner, and there's a huge load area with this just all dark and menacing looking, with stalactites and stalagmites, and the vehicles pulling up on the left and right, and the vehicles are sort of small trains of 2 cars that fit 12 people in each, 4 people per row. And I thought it was really nice that the rows are slightly inclined, like stadium seating, so the people in the back can see over the heads of the people in front of you.
Yeah. What row were you in?
I was in the front row.
Okay.
The very front of all of it, which was great.
Yeah. And those were cool. During preview night, like I said, I was one of the first people in, and we were right about to get on the ride. We were like next people to get on, and it broke down. And Warwick Davis, who plays Grip Hook in Flitwick, he was actually sitting in the vehicle ready to go when it broke down. And they waited 5 minutes. Everybody was waiting for the ride to come back online, and they couldn't. Well, they figured it out after 5-10 minutes. But then they had to cycle the vehicles through. Right. So then they asked Warwick and his family to get out of the vehicle so they could cycle the vehicles, and then they brought him back on afterwards. Yeah,
that was pretty much the story of the whole night, and this is why it's not opening till July 8th. It's not quite ready. I mean, it worked when it worked, but it didn't work a lot of the time. I mean, that evening was the first time people have had to be evacuated from the ride.
Oh,
people
really?
walked off. Yeah, they turned all the house lights on. Unfortunately, so that's a pretty terrible first ride, but that's how it happens with previews. It's not like anything is unsafe there. It's just they're working out the kinks of what is a high-tech attraction. And the same thing happened with Forbidden Journey. Same thing happens with every ride, is they just kind of have to go through all the little bugs. And I mean, at one point when I was waiting to load, the one row's lap bars wouldn't come up. They sat there for about 15 minutes while they went and got the maintenance guys to manually open the thing, and then they had to cycle it, and just little things like that. It's nothing major.
It'll be worked out.
Exactly. Certainly by opening day they'll have it ready to go. But once you finally get on there, what did you think of the Escape from Gringotts experience?
So here's my thing. When there's a little preview video right before you go in that elevator right down, and it shows you what's going to be going on with your vehicle, and like there's you see the cart spinning around, and I guess doing some drops. But even before seeing that, the impression that most people are getting, I believe, is that this functions very similar to how you see Harry, Ron, and Hermione descending into the Gringotts Bank vaults in the movie in Deathly Hallows. But it was less intense than Forbidden Journey.
Definitely.
That I am certain of. And that surprised me. I thought it was going to be on the same level, or maybe bump it up, be a little more intense.
It is not a roller coaster.
It is not. But again, like what you see in the Deathly Hallows movie, it looks like a coaster. It's begging to be turned into a coaster. And so that's why I think there's going to be some expectations that may be left feeling disappointed, because it's not that. However, it is a very fun ride.
Yeah, there is a lot to say about the expectations of this. People keep asking me, well, is it like The Mummy? Is it like Transformers? Is it like this? Is it like that? And I'm like, it's not. It's sort of a little bit of all of those things, but it's also its own thing.
Yeah.
I've never been on a ride vehicle that does what this one does. I mean, you pull into the first scene, and it's the one that Universal's been publicizing with, Bellatrix comes out and zaps you with her wand because, you shouldn't be there, and Ron and the gang are invading and trying to get their Horcrux, and she thinks you're involved somehow, and so she zaps you, and here we go. Here come the spoilers. Immediately, it's down and into a high-speed sort of drop and around some corners, and you're in a room that you didn't think that would be even possible.
Yeah, and it like those drops are one of a few where there's actually some real like coaster like action going on, but it's not intense. I mean, this is a really good family ride, I think. It has a good balance of scariness and movement. I think it can appeal to the whole family without turning anybody off from like too much motion.
Right. Well, it was intended to be a little more family friendly than Forbidden Journey was. There's no, you're not flying all around and being turned on your side and on your back and this and that. There's no upside down. It's the big motions are kind of, there are some drops, there are some tight turns. You do swivel and spin left and right as corresponding with the 3D visuals around you. You've got the big sort of armored troll guys, I guess they are, and sort of the grabbing your vehicle and throwing it, and you spin really according. Cool. Yeah, it's really believable, and these screens are not like Spider-Man and Transformers at all, where it's kind of like in those it's this big rectangles, and you just kind of pull up to it. In this one, they wrap around you and really create this whole completely immersive environment in 3D, and that allows the characters, including Voldemort, to come right up to you and be like, it looks like he's standing there 3 feet in front of you.
It does. And my favorite scenes were actually the ones where Bellatrix and Voldemort were together.
Yeah.
Because they just, the chemistry between those two actors, Ray Fiennes and Helena Bonham Carter, it's perfect. So that was one of my favorite experiences about it.
And the first time that you see them, you first see the snake who gets all up in your face, and then Voldemort comes out of the darkness, and you're like, oh my god, there he is. And and what's cool is because it's sort of these two cars that are connected. For the most part, you've got a lead car and a back car, but at that point, everything swivels backwards, and suddenly you're backing away from them, almost like, I gotta get out of here, I gotta get out of here, and they're coming towards you, and she's flipping magic wand spells at you, and if you were in the front, now you're in the back, and the back car is taking the brunt of that. It's just kind of cool how everything, you never know where things are going to be coming from.
Yeah, and then so there's some water effects, there's some fire effects. Yeah. There's a good 4D experience that's going on, and the 3D, it's not very intense 3D, which I was actually pretty happy about. Like that, the Despicable Me ride, which I rode for the first time during this trip, that's some pretty intense 3D stuff, really flying at you and whatnot. I thought the 3D here was just right, and maybe again that goes into the family sense of this appealing to as many people as possible.
Yeah, I would say the most intense 3D moment is yet again, just like Transformers and Spider-Man. There's sort of that, oh no, we're falling, tilting forward moment, and I think it was the most believable of all of those. Where you're kind of falling off a cliff and you're like, and, and then something catches you at the bottom, and that seems to happen in every 3D ride for some reason, but it works.
Yeah, I need to go on it again, because I just like that first time you do it. It's sensory overload. Oh yeah, it's just overwhelming. I'm impressed that you remember it to this detail.
I had a feeling that was going to be my only ride on it, which it was. I've only been on it once, and so I was really consciously making mental notes all the way through. You do see Harry, Ron, and Hermione in there, but the actors didn't contribute, which is interesting.
Yeah, so I guess it was maybe just Rupert who did, who plays Ron. But Harry and Hermione, played by Dan Radcliffe and Emma Watson, we did not. And we actually got official confirmation finally from Universal during the press conference the next day. They said that they, quote unquote, weren't available for filming.
Yeah.
However, based on what Dan Radcliffe has said, it just seems like he wants to separate himself for as much as possible.
Right.
But it actually ended up working pretty well. I mean, if Rupert shot a scene specifically for this, they meshed him in with footage from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows perfectly, because Rupert, Dan, and Emma, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they all look like they're there.
They do, yeah. I'm sure there's some incredible post-production CG work going on there because it was like, yep, there they are. They're riding the dragon as they should be, and yeah.
I guess the reason that they were able to make it work is because when they were filming those dragon scenes for the movie, they must have had so much extra footage just laying on the ground from different various outtakes. So they pieced all that together.
Yeah.
But actually, jumping back to the Hogwarts Express real quick, you do hear Hermione's voice, but it does not sound like Emma.
I agree. Yeah, that it was noticeably different.
They need to throw like, you know, a few $1,000 at Emma, be like, give us 5 minutes, just please say these lines really quick for us.
Yeah, I agree. That was
Anyway.
even you know, for me not being you know, a huge fan and everything, I'm not, you know, I could even tell it wasn't her.
I'm a bit surprised they even thought they would fool people with that, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. So then the ride ends. Lots of applause. Definitely thrilling. Definitely visually entertaining. And then comes the weirdness of, well, wait, there's no elevator back up. I just kind of walk out.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
So we went from 9 miles down under the earth or wherever we are to the Wizarding World, and yeah, we'll just kind of stroll out of here.
Yeah. Okay. I think there was like one staircase.
Yeah,
but
small,
that's it.
right?
Yeah, not 9 miles worth, certainly. And then you do get your ride photo right there,
quote unquote.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little while. We had to wait a while for them to get it printed, and I think the line just got longer and longer throughout the night.
Yeah, that's going to be kind of a mess there.
Yeah, but hopefully not. See, we were lucky enough to get our photos for free, so you know, with less people buying them after the ride, because you know they cost a lot of money. I think it's $30 for the first 8x10 and then $20 for each additional one.
Yeah.
You know, less people will be actually buying, so maybe the lines won't be that bad.
So as expected here, we are running really, really long. I want to blast through the rest of sort of Diagon Alley as quickly as possible. Not that the rest of it needs to be blasted through because there's so much, but I have to say Nocturne Alley, my favorite part of the entire thing.
Yeah, and again, like I mentioned earlier, the fact that it's completely shaded and air conditioned. I mean, it's dark. You cannot even see your feet. It is dark.
Yeah, it's an area that feels like you're still outdoors. You're basically supposed to be, but you're really indoors because it is so dark and it's cold, which is wonderful. And there's sort of stormy clouds overhead, and you transition from bright daylight outside into nighttime within a matter of a few steps.
In there has one of the cooler effects with the interactive wands, which I'm sure we'll mention in a moment. You can activate a skeleton in one of the storefronts, and you can move. What your movements will be mimicked by the digital skeleton. Yeah, and it's really cool. It's like Xbox that
the
whole
Kinect thing.
The Kinect, yeah, it reminded me of that.
Yeah, Nocturne Alley as a whole, for those like me who are big fans of Halloween and Halloween Horror Nights, this is the place where we're going to want to hang out for the rest of the year because it's spooky, it's creepy. There's dark corners, you get lost in there very easily. There's the animated wanted posters of the various Death Eaters. There's creepy. There's like the tattoo parlor with animated skulls sticking out their tongues, and
which are really cool.
Yeah, it's just everywhere you look. It's definitely the darker side of Harry Potter, including the Borgin and Burke store. Like you said, it has the hand that kind of grabs at you when you walk through there. It's got the vanishing cabinet in the corner. Just skeletons and skulls everywhere. And
I coined that store as the hot topic of Diagon Alley. It's very topic.
Pretty much. With I guess all the emo kids will be hanging out in Borgin and Burke's.
Yeah, they'll love it.
That's funny. Well, they sell the the Horcrux necklace and all that kind of stuff there, and Death Eater masks, and there really isn't anything to do in Nocturne Alley other than, like you said, there's the interactive wands which are throughout the area, but it's just an area to go and walk through. It's not an attraction per se, but it almost is, because it's like totally different from the rest of anything anywhere.
Yeah, and seriously, it is dark. Like, I wasn't kidding when I said I can't see my feet in there. It's just when you walk in from the bright Orlando sunlight, it takes your eyes a minute to adjust. But even after they adjust, it's still really dark in there.
So we mentioned interactive wands throughout the area. If you buy a special $45 wand, there are medallions on the ground that you can walk up to and trigger various special effects throughout Diagon Alley. And actually, they've added them to Hogsmeade as well.
Yeah, I was really impressed by these because they work a lot better than I thought that they would. People will be standing, I believe you told me, loosely around each of the interactive wand moments,
Hmm.
and once you get a quick little lesson, just I was told just to use my wrist
Right. It should be tiny little movements with your wrist.
Yeah, it works great. I mean,
It does, and
I think
you're satisfied when you flick, in the certain pattern, and you say the magic words, and something happens. Rain comes down, or something lights up, or
yeah.
there's a ton of different effects that go on that you don't even know what to expect until it happens.
Yeah, along that line, it's very responsive. You get the result that you're looking for almost right after. It doesn't like take a while to process.
Right.
It just happens. It was really cool.
Did you do there's the back corner of Nocturne Alley where really the only purpose of that area is for a couple of these interactive wand moments.
I didn't do those.
So
cool?
One of them is great. There's this sort of spooky doorway that's really nondescript otherwise, and when you do the incantation, the door handle lights up in the sort of glowing blue color, and an eye appears in the door, kind of looking out at you,
oh, cool.
beckoning you to open the door. So then you reach in and you pull on the door handle, and psh, you get blasted with air as a little scare.
That's cool.
Which
that's
it's a fun,
cool.
and you're of course in the spooky environment, so it's a nice little. People are going to be screaming from that for sure.
Yeah, and then there are a couple hidden ones.
Yes,
I think there's two.
At least,
maybe.
Yeah.
There's one at Scribulus, and there's another one. The employees working there weren't sure exactly where it was, so we had a hard time finding that. But the hidden ones, quote unquote, are just there's no marker on the ground telling you what direction to point, and there's no specific spell you have to do. You just kind of wave your wand a little bit to get it to activate. Those are like open ended.
Yeah. So, it's definitely a fun addition. People are going to be buying up those wands like crazy.
And the cool thing about those is that Universal could easily continue adding more of those throughout the two parks.
So you mentioned Scribulus. There are a ton of stores, of course, in Diagon Alley, and this I don't know that they had all of their merchandise in yet, because I felt like I was looking at a lot of the same stuff that was in the original Wizarding World.
Okay, and one thing you mentioned earlier, you said the park is not 100% complete yet.
Right.
One of the things we saw them doing that day was adding those little displays to the register so the customer can see what their total is. They were like screwing those all in, which I thought was kind of funny.
And that's why I don't really want to say too much about the stores right now, because I don't think they're fully stocked, fully ready to go. The decor of all the stores is great. I mean, the Weasley's Wizard Wheezies is fun to be in. There's animated things everywhere. It's a little smaller than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. But I guess that goes into the whole that's how it looks in the Wizarding World. So.
Right, but I mean, all the stores have their own unique themed merchandise, and I think over time they're really going to get in a lot of really amazing pieces that are unique to that area. We already mentioned Ollivanders, which is more or less the same show that it was in Hogsmeade.
It is, like I said earlier, it's got that nice indoor queue where there's tons of wands, and at the store at the end of Ollivanders after the show, there are so many wands stacked up that you can actually purchase. It's almost like, wow, all of these are for sale.
Right, yeah.
Because they're just scattered
they're
throughout.
They're everywhere. And like, even the hallway that you walk in to go to the show is just like floor to ceiling, huge amounts of wands everywhere.
So cool. It really is cool. That was another wow moment for me.
So there's the restaurants. We mentioned Leaky Cauldron earlier. I was not thrilled by the food there.
No, just taste-wise?
I thought it was, I thought it was about on par with Three Broomsticks. It was good, but didn't blow me away or anything.
I had the chicken sandwich, which I really liked. I was surprised they actually had cheese on it, because I don't think anything in the Three Broomsticks had cheese.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a nice place. It felt bigger than the Three Broomsticks.
Yeah, I agree. There's more room to spread out. Maybe not as much detail in there, but it is definitely more spacious. And I will say the special drinks that they've added in addition to butterbeer and pumpkin juice, they've got that fishy green ale, which is really good. I enjoyed it. It has a little bursting blueberry, little boba balls in there. It's got a unique flavor to it, but I enjoyed that. Of course, there's the gilly water where they add the special elixir flavor to. Those taste pretty good, although you're really you're paying $4 for a bottle of water.
Exactly, with some color in it.
Yeah.
Or you can just buy the gilly water as water.
Right.
I don't know how much cheaper it is.
It's still $4.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Which is terrible. But butterbeer ice cream is so good.
It was, yeah. And what surprised me about that's the one ice cream that they sell there it comes out of like a swirl machine.
It's a soft serve, but a really dense soft serve.
Yeah, and there's like a line of chocolate in the middle of it, like splitting the two flavors or something. It was very delicious.
Yeah, I went into this. Of course, is in Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlor, and they have a lot of flavors there. So I was waiting in line to get some ice cream, and they were giving out samples of the butterbeer ice cream. So I'm eating that. When by the time I finished this little cup of butterbeer ice cream, I was like, you know what? I don't want any more. That was enough. It's so thick and dense and creamy, and I'm like, that filled me up right there. So you don't need a lot of it, but it is very sweet and good.
Yeah, it was refreshing. I enjoyed it a lot. And then I also had the chocolate chili. Has a little bite to it.
I heard that has quite the kick that sneaks up on you at the end.
Yeah, it does. It's not an uncomfortable amount though. It's just enough. I usually do not like spicy things, but that I could deal with.
Good. Well, so then that finally leaves us. We mentioned the shows earlier. There are two different shows. One is Celestina Warbeck. I really enjoyed the show. The jazzy singer with the backup dancers and singers, and they took one line out of a book and turned it into a 10-minute musical performance with original songs and routines, and I thought it was fantastic.
It was great. I mean, I really enjoyed it. And again, when you're sitting there in that shaded area, big shaded area,
helps.
It's just perfect to relax and enjoy some music.
And then the puppet show tells the tales of Beetle the Bard, the tale of the three brothers through these elaborate puppets that look just like the sort of the way they showed them in the Deathly Hallows movie. I thought that was pretty cool. I liked the jazzy musical performance better, but the puppet show was cool too.
They're two very different shows, which is good. So instead, if you don't like music, then you can watch a stage show. Whereas
exactly.
Vice versa. But I did just a plug for your YouTube channel. I watched the Three Brothers show on your YouTube channel. You have a good video up there. The puppets are cool.
They are, and it ends with a massive appearance of death, which is pretty neat. It's a nice surprise at the end. So yes, you certainly mentioned the YouTube channel. I've cranked out a lot of videos over the last few days of everything. Of course, very spoiler filled. But if everybody wants to see just about everything in the Wizarding world, almost, I've still got a few more to put out there. But it's all up there, and photos and everything. And I'm sure you over at Hypable, you're writing up all your thoughts and everything.
Yeah, I did a nice high-res photo article showing off some of the cooler parts of Diagon Alley, and I did an overview report talking about some of the things that I said today. Just about, I tried to take it from the angle of what people need to know before going into the park, and what they can expect. I touched on the shade and the immersive experience and the ride, and if it's good for families and whatnot. So
excellent.
That's all on Hypable.
Well, that is Diagon Alley in a nutshell. There's endless amounts of things that we didn't even go into because it's incredibly immersive. It's one of the coolest theme park anythings that I've ever seen. I would want to spend weeks just exploring that area.
I agree. I can't wait to go back.
July 8th is the official opening date. Certain hotel packages start just over a week from now on the 29th. I imagine there's going to be soft openings in that window somewhere. Whenever that happens, I'm definitely going to run over there. But there it is. This is the Diagon Alley summary. Andrew, thanks so much for running through it all with me, and I look forward to seeing you back out there soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure to be on this podcast.
Definitely, and you know what? Not too far. Well, a couple of years from now, we'll see you in Hollywood as Hogsmeade pops up over there.
Exactly. We'll do tons of comparisons between Hogsmeade Orlando and Hogsmeade Hollywood.
Definitely. Well, we'll have to do another podcast then. So yeah. Thanks very much again.
Thank you.
Thanks once again to Andrew Sims of MuggleCast and Hypable for joining me to discuss everything Diagon Alley. And I use the word everything pretty lightly because even though we just talked for an hour and 15 minutes, we didn't even scratch the surface of what's there. We gave definitely an overview, a lot of opinions. It's phenomenal, but there is so much to see. We only had the opportunity to spend, half a day total in there, if that. And I cannot wait to get back in there to really fully explore, have fun with the interactive wands more. I didn't see nearly everything that the wands can do. Hang out more in Nocturne Alley, which is so incredible. Ride Escape from Gringotts a few more times and really see what that ride can do. Certainly go back and forth on the Hogwarts Express many more times to catch all the little Easter eggs because there's so much going on in that attraction that it's hard to catch everything in just one trip back and forth. and really just, sit back and enjoy everything without looking through my camera with everything, because I've already put up 17 videos from Diagon Alley, and I've got another, I think, 8 or 9 planned within the next couple of days. So, and even that is still not even covering absolutely everything. It's just incredibly huge and immersive and wonderful. And if all of that wasn't enough, I do have a couple of more special guests to welcome here to the show at the tail end. This week, while I was at Universal for all of the exciting unveiling of Diagon Alley, I had a chance to talk to a couple of Harry Potter stars once again. I'm going to start with my conversation with Evanna Lynch, who played Luna Lovegood in the Harry Potter films, and I talked to her just before she had a chance to step into Diagon Alley for the first time. I hadn't been in there yet at this point either, so it was interesting to hear what she was looking forward to and sort of her take on what has made Harry Potter so very, very popular. Have you been inside Diagon Alley yet?
Not yet. No, I was there a few months ago when it was under construction, but decided to have a look around.
So what are you most looking forward to seeing in there?
I'm excited for the entranceway, the archway, where you go from the London setting, the Muggle London, into the Wizarding World, because that was something that I think in the books it was like a real historic moment for Harry to walk through that wall and to see magic before his eyes. So I'm looking forward to having that experience also.
Why do you think Harry Potter has lasted as long as it has and become such an amazing theme park attraction here?
I think it's because, the characters really, they're the heart of the story, and I know people are also entranced by the fantasy and the world that J.K. Rowling created, but it's because the characters, we love them so much and we relate to them so much, despite them being in this completely separate world from us, or just not, fantasy world that we don't experience. I think it's still that they are very human behind it. I think because I read a lot of fantasy, and there's just so much fantasy that it's interesting, it's like an escape, but it's not that you relate to it, and she's created something that is simultaneously an escape and relatable, and you have this connection. She had a quote where she said, "Fantasy isn't an escape from our world; it's an invitation to go deeper into it." And I think that's what Harry Potter is.
It's a great way to explain it. Certainly a great quote from J.K. Rowling that Evanna shared there. It's always great to talk to her. She's such not only a great person, but a big Harry Potter fan. It's clear that even though she was in the film, she's also really excited about everything. And ultimately, she did get to explore Diagon Alley and just had a blast, as has everybody who's been in there. I also spoke with James Phelps this week, who played Fred Weasley in the Harry Potter films, and he had already been inside Diagon Alley, had a chance to experience quite a lot of it, and here he shared his thoughts on the new area. Now, I know you've already been inside Diagon Alley. What was it like walking in there for the first time?
It was pretty, I don't know how to say it without sounding like a cliche. It was awe-inspiring for the fact of you're just solely immersed in the land. So when you walk in, you're not looking at, I don't know, like Springfield over at one section or Dr. Zeus or whatever. You're fully involved in the wizarding world, which I think is truly unique to any park in the world. And just the attention to detail is just out of this world. It really is.
What do you think of the interactive wand experience?
That's really cool, because I didn't really know much about it until Thierry gave us this wand and said, right, follow the instructions there. And I did, and it was in front of our joke shop. And then I can't say what happened, but it was like, wait, what? How that worked? So yeah.
And speaking of the joke shop, looking up and seeing your giant head there, what's that like?
It's bit of an ego trip, to be honest with you. It's pretty cool, and it's one of the first things you see when you walk through the world as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool on a personal front.
And that's going to wrap up this week's show that I'm calling show 481 3/4, beginning and ending the show a little bit differently this week, just because it is a very special week. It's not common at all, to say the least, that something as incredible as Diagon Alley is introduced to the theme park world. It really is a game changer. I know that is a phrase that has been thrown around a lot for a lot of things, but in this case, it is absolutely true. You can use every cliche to describe this. It raised the bar, it exploded the bar, it threw the bar away. I don't know. It's really unbelievable. I've never stepped into anything quite like this environment because it doesn't feel like a theme park in any way, shape, or form, except for maybe sort of the roller coaster-y elements of the ride. That's the only time of the whole experience that you feel like you're in a theme park. Otherwise, it is exploring a fictional place that has now become real, which is absolutely incredible. I cannot wait to get back in there. So if you want to see a whole lot more, definitely head over to InsideTheMagic.net. Check our YouTube channel, youtube.com/InsideTheMagic. Go on our Flickr account to browse all the photos. It just goes on and on. As I said, I'm going to be posting even more over the next few days because I haven't even shared everything yet because there is so very much. And then we're, of course, looking forward to July 8th, which is going to be the official grand opening of this. It may be soft openings before that. Those who have purchased special hotel vacation packages with the Universal Orlando will be getting in as of June 29th. So somewhere in that vague window in there's probably going to be some soft openings, and I'll definitely jump over there as soon as that happens. But July 8th is the official opening of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Diagon Alley over at Universal Studios Florida, and it is impressive. Of course, now rounding out the show here, I do want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. Once again, our website, of course, is InsideTheMagic.net. Aside from all the Harry Potter fun, you can find all of the latest Disney and theme park news and podcasts and videos and photos and all that good stuff. And in addition to YouTube, which I mentioned, definitely follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Hello to all of you new followers out there. I'm sure I picked up plenty this week as I was tweeting away and posting on Facebook throughout the huge event. And I had mentioned briefly at the beginning of that conversation with Andrew that there was even more going on from Universal this week. There's a preview of some upcoming City Walk restaurants, also the new Vivo Italian Kitchen, which is delicious. I've eaten there 3 times already this week because it is so good. So you can read a review of that and also some previews of upcoming restaurants as well. And the grand opening of Cabana Bay Beach Resort was great too. I had a chance to go in the lazy river there, which was fun. You can see a video of swimming through the lazy river and all of that over on our website. And now we enter the summer season, and it's going to be a little bit of a lull after July 8th for a chance for all the parks to just sit back, and Disney will be enjoying their Mine Train, Universal will be enjoying the Diagon Alley, and we'll just move into the busy summer season. So pretty exciting. I look forward to just sort of casually visiting the parks for a while this summer, and hopefully avoiding the crazy heat. So anyway, thanks very much to all of you for listening to the show each and every week. Coming up soon, I don't know if it's going to be next week or the week after. Yes, Paul Berry will be joining me once again for a half year in review. So stay tuned for that and plenty more. So please do have a magical week. Bye.